everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to our special presentation called Communicating with Diverse Audiences. My name is Deborah Silverman. I'm a professor here in the Communication Department. First of all, I would like to thank our college's Equity and Campus Diversity Office for sponsoring today's visit by our guest speaker. In addition, my special thanks to our Communication Department for sponsoring the reception that's going to take place immediately afterward, and you're all invited to it. It's going to be right out here outside this lecture hall in the atrium. And my thanks also to the students in our chapter of the Public Relations Student Society of America for their excellent work in helping me to publicize this event and also to help plan the reception. Please join me for a round of applause for our sponsors and for the students. I first met our guest speaker, Ofield Dukes, earlier this year when both of us were in New York City as members of the National Board of Directors of the Public Relations Society of America. PRSA is the world's largest organization of public relations professionals. This year, PRSA has made diversity a major area of focus, both in terms of increasing diversity in the public relations workforce and in communicating with diverse audiences. Mr. Dukes is serving this year as a special counsel to PRSA on diversity issues. He has had a distinguished career in Washington, D.C. as an award-winning public relations practitioner. A journalism graduate of Wayne State University in Detroit, Mr. Dukes relocated to Washington in 1964 to join President Lyndon Johnson's administration as Deputy Director of Information for the President's Committee on Equal Employment Opportunity, which was chaired by President Johnson. In 1966, he was appointed to the staff of Vice President Hubert Humphrey. He started his own public relations firm in 1969. Motown Records and Lever Brothers were his first clients, followed by corporations such as AT&T and RJR Nabisco, and nonprofit associations, including the American Lung Association and the National Education Association. His PR clients have also included entertainers such as Aretha Franklin and Prince, entertainment companies such as CBS Records, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Brothers Records, and federal government agencies, including the U.S. Departments of Agriculture, Commerce, Defense, Health and Human Services, Labor, Navy, and the Treasury. Mr. Dukes helped to organize the first Congressional Black Caucus Dinner, and he served on the boards of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Change. He's been a communication consultant for every Democratic presidential campaign since 1972. In 1993, he founded the Black Public Relations Society of Washington. At Howard University, where Mr. Dukes taught as an adjunct professor for 17 years, he was instrumental in formulating the public relations curriculum. He also served as an adjunct professor in the School of Communications at the American University for 8 years. He's received numerous awards, including PRSA's Silver Anvil Award in 1975 and PRSA's highest individual award, the Gold Anvil Award, in 2001. The Gold Anvil Award is a Lifetime Achievement Award presented to a public relations practitioner and a PRSA member whose accomplishments have made a major contribution to the public relations profession. In 2005, Mr. Dukes was named by PR Week, a major publication in the public relations industry, as one of the 5 most effective communicators of the year. It's a pleasure to introduce Ofield Dukes.
Professor Silverman, thank you very much. I'm excited and delighted to be here in Buffalo, the winter wonderland of the most notorious snowstorms in the country. And I want to thank Professor Silverman for inviting me to visit with you at Buffalo State College in the weather-safe month of April. But I understand it's supposed to have snow showers tonight. When I left Washington, the temperature was mild, and yesterday the temperature was in the 90s. And when I arrived here this morning, I think the temperature was about 55 degrees. I have a sister and her husband who live here. And in their retirement, they flee Buffalo in the fall, before the winter, to enjoy the alluring sunshine of Orlando, Florida. Because I am a great believer in the day-to-day practice of public relations, the art of winning friends and influencing people, I would just like for you to stand up for a brief moment and to give a smile and say a quick hello and a kind word to someone sitting near where you are. So if you would just stand for a minute. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. There will be two main segments of my remarks. The first will focus on a radically changing world of great cultural, racial, and ethnic diversity. And the second part will focus on several principles that contributed to my success in the field of public relations and communications. Principles that I think that could be helpful to you as students in your career pursuits. As we all know, this is the once every decade year for the U.S. Census. And this year's census will confirm the fact that one of America's greatest assets is its rich racial and cultural diversity. This is not only true of America, but also of our global economy. What are the diversity implications for you as Buffalo State College students who will be seeking your fortunes in the world of work? Most importantly, we need to look at American population diversity from an economic perspective. Why? Simply because every American company providing goods and services in the marketplace, whether a Fortune 500 company or a neighborhood mom and pop store, will need to respond to the demographics and the psychographics of American consumers. As you know, the demographics are the basic characteristics of the population, and the psychographics are the cultural and social lifestyles of people. America's approximate population in 2008 was 304 million. And of this number, 138 million were males, and and 43 million were females. And on a racial breakdown, in 2008, 43 million were Hispanic, 38 million African Americans, 12 million Asian American, and about 3 million Native Americans. And incidentally, the US population is the third largest in the world, behind China and India. In looking at the US racial population in economic terms, according to the Selig Center for Economic Growth at the University of Georgia, projections of buying power show that minorities, African Americans, Hispanic, Asians, and Native Americans represent tremendous economic clout. In 2009, both the African American buying power of $950 billion and the Hispanic buying power of $978 billion are larger than the entire economies of all but 14 countries in the world. The purchasing power of the African American community and the Hispanic community is larger than the entire economies of all but 14 countries in the world. Now, the buying power is the total personal income of residents available after taxes for spending on virtually everything that we buy. And the buying power of African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Native Americans clearly suggests that as the U.S. consumer market becomes even more diverse, advertising products and media must be tailored to each market segment. It is interesting to me how times have changed over the years in the evolution of population diversity in our country. For example, in 1915, immigrant citizens in the U.S. came mostly from Germany. And in 1967, immigrants came mostly from Italy. And in 2006, immigrants mostly came from Mexico and subsequently Central and South America. And there have been remarkable changes in our lifestyle here in America. In 1915, life expectancy for US citizens was at 54.5 years. Life expectancy for US citizens in 2006 was 77.8 years. And life expectancy for you young people here at Buffalo State College will extend beyond 77.8 years. So there are special implications for you in terms of how life expectancy has increased significantly over the years. In 1959, women were 23% of the US workforce, compared to 41% in 1967, and 58% in 2006. And that figure will certainly be higher based on this year's census. So we all can agree that women in this country have come a long way from not being able to vote to now being a significant part of the diversity of the American job market and this consumer market. On a global basis, the world's richest countries are the United States, followed by Japan, China, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Russia, Spain, Brazil, Canada, India, South Korea, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, and South Africa. In my own travels, I've learned about the psychographics, the cultural and social traditions of people in these countries. And in 1994, I was privileged to be invited to be a part of a group of 25 American executives to spend 10 days in Japan to learn about Japanese culture, business practice, and opportunities. The trip was compellingly interesting and informative. I learned that in order to do business with the Japanese, you need to spend a lot of time socializing with them, eating, drinking, singing, eating, drinking, singing, playing golf, and tennis until they feel very comfortable with you. And they feel then that they can trust you, because based on the tradition of Japanese business people, they are not inclined to do business with people they don't trust. In 1970, I was invited to spend 10 days in Sweden as a VIP guest of the Swedish government. And on the day of my arrival in Stockholm, I was invited to join my female guide at Club Alexandria, which is a very popular social spot in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. And I met my female guide in front of Club Alexandria. And I was prepared to do what an American gentleman would do in this country, and that was to pay the cover charge. But my female guide said, "Oh no, Mr. Dukes, in Sweden, a woman doesn't accept special favors from a male in the first series of social outings." And she added that if a young woman in Sweden doesn't accept any special favors from a new date, she can feel free of any obligations and then maintain her sense of independence. And I just wonder how many of you young ladies would be in favor of such a custom here in Buffalo. How many of you?
I think we already do that.
Okay. That is wonderful. Okay. While in Sweden, I was invited to have dinner with a professor at the University of Uppsala. And when I arrived, the professor was in the kitchen, cooking. Adorned in his apron, the professor said in his country, there is a co-equal relationship between husband and wife, and whoever arrived home first did the cooking. And I also wonder, how would such a custom work here in Buffalo and in this country? And I'm not really certain that that custom will work at my house because I don't cook. When I visited Johannesburg, South Africa, for an international public relations conference, I was surprised to arrive at a hotel there that was more luxurious than any hotel in your nation's capital. And at the entrance of this hotel was a shoeshine boy dressed in a tuxedo. And the taxi cabs were either BMWs or Mercedes. And at this club, the Michelangelo, every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we sat in the lavish luxury of this hotel to have tea, surrounded by such gorgeous and beautiful female waitresses. This is Johannesburg, South Africa, and Cape Town, a peninsula overlooking a convergence of the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Like San Francisco, the homes are scattered in the hills. And in Cape Town, some homes are so far in the hills that you have to take a cable car to get to where they are. Now, when I went to Nigeria in West Africa, I found the automobile traffic there worse than New York City. And in Lagos, Nigeria, The government had a system of having cars with even and odd-numbered license plates. And those with even-numbered plates could drive their cars on even days. And those with odd-numbered license plates could drive their cars on the odd days. But the wealthy class in Lagos, Nigeria, owned 2 cars, both Mercedes, with even and odd number license plates. Now, the point I'm making is that you as students would want to Google these and other countries to learn more about their social and cultural lifestyles, because American firms are now depending on foreign commerce for their bottom line, for their profits. Also, human resources personnel are now placing greater emphasis on a job seeker's interpersonal relations, the ability to relate and deal with people of different races, cultures, and ethnic groups. Therefore, you would need to be particularly aware of your own attitude toward others, and how you can reach out and win friends and influence people.